The arrival of HSS Defiant. The crystalline spires of Deep Space Monitoring Station Helios 9 hummed with an ancient frequency, their resonance unchanged for millennia. First observer Zathraval stood at her post, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of the quantum displays before her. For 300 cycles, she had maintained her vigilance over this sector of space, monitoring the darkness between stars for any sign of unauthorized technological advancement. The Preserver's directive was clear: protect developing civilizations from external interference until they naturally achieve faster-than-light travel. That's when the impossible happened. The quantum sensors screamed to life, their harmonics shifting to a frequency Zathraval had never encountered in all her years of service. The space before her observation window twisted, reality itself seeming to fold inward like crumpled paper before smoothing out again. Where there had been empty space moments before, a ship now existed. Analysis, she commanded, her crystalline voice resonating through the chamber. The monitoring staff's appendages flew across their control surfaces, their own crystalline forms vibrating with tension. Unknown configuration. First observer reported second monitor Crix. The vessel, it's using technology we've never encountered. Energy signatures don't match any known species in the database. Zathraval's scales shifted to a deep purple of concern. The vessel before them defied conventional design philosophy, where preserver ships were elegant crystalline structures that channeled the natural energies of spacetime. This craft was angular, aggressive, and dark. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult for their sensors to get a clear reading. "It's broadcasting," announced third monitor Ven, their crystals pulsing with surprise. Using primitive radio waves. The choice of communication medium alone was shocking. No spacefaring race had used radio waves for communication in thousands of cycles. It was like receiving a message by smoke signal. "Put it through," Zathraval ordered, her scales now rippling with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. A voice crackled through the station's communication crystals, somehow both alien and commanding. "This is Captain Elena Santos of the human spaceship Defiant. We come with urgent warning. Your civilization and ours are in imminent danger. Request immediate audience with your highest authority." The monitoring chamber fell silent. Humans, the primitive species from the spiral arm that hadn't even achieved unified planetary governance when last observed, barely 200 cycles ago. Yet here they were, having not only achieved faster-than-light travel, but apparently mastering some form of technology the preservers themselves had never encountered. "Impossible," whispered Crix. "Their development timeline. It would mean they advanced 5,000 cycles worth of technology in less than 200. First observer, Ven's crystals pulsed urgently. "I'm detecting weapon systems on their vessel, but they're unlike anything in our database. The energy readings suggest they could." They hesitated. "They could potentially breach our defensive fields." Zathraval felt her crystalline core vibrate with the weight of decision. The preserver's protocols were absolute. No interference with developing species, no unauthorized technological advancement, no exceptions. But those same protocols had never accounted for a species simply appearing in their space with technology that shouldn't exist. "Captain Santos," Zathraval responded, her translator converting her crystalline resonances into radio waves. "Your presence here violates numerous preserver directives. Explain your warning, and quickly." The human captain's voice carried a gravity that transcended species barriers. 3 solar cycles ago, we discovered something in the void between spiral arms, something that doesn't show up on conventional sensors, something that consumes entire civilizations, leaving nothing but empty space behind. We tracked it, studied it, lost colonies to it. It's heading toward your space now. Zathraval's scales shifted to the deep red of emergency status. "Verify these claims. Show us." "Transmitting data now," Captain Santos replied. "But you should know, you have less than 30 standard rotations before it arrives. We've been trying to warn other civilizations, but we were too late for many. Your station was the first to actually respond to our hails. The data streamed into Helios 9's quantum processors, and Zathraval felt her crystalline structure resonate with horror as she processed the information. Entire star systems simply gone, not destroyed, erased as if they had never existed. The humans had included their sensor logs, showing something massive moving through space, something that bent light and reality around it in ways that shouldn't be possible. How? Zathraval demanded. How did you achieve this level of technology so quickly? Necessity, Santos answered grimly. When we first detected the void, we knew our existing technology couldn't fight it. So we did what humans do best. We adapted. We took risks. We broke what we thought were the fundamental laws of physics. We survived. Zathraval studied the human vessel again, seeing it with new understanding. Its strange design, its impossible technology, they weren't signs of natural development. They were the products of desperate innovation, of a species that had looked into the face of extinction and decided to rewrite the rules of reality itself rather than accept their fate. The preservers have maintained stability in this galaxy for 100,000 cycles, Zathraval said, her scales shifting to the blue-green of deep thought. Our technology, our methods, our very philosophy is based on maintaining the natural order. With respect, First Observer, Santos replied, what's coming doesn't care about the natural order. It doesn't care about philosophy or protocol. It only consumes. And if we don't work together, if we don't combine your ancient wisdom with our new perspectives, there won't be anyone left to maintain order at all. Zathraval felt her crystal core resonate with a frequency she had never experienced before. The harmony of fear and hope combined. The humans had violated every principle the preservers held sacred, yet they had done so not out of greed or ambition, but out of an instinct for survival that transcended all protocols. Captain Santos, she said finally, I am initiating emergency protocols to contact the Preserver High Council. Maintain your position, and prepare to share everything you know about this void. It seems humanity has much to teach us about adaptation. As she gave the order, Zathraval wondered if this was how the galaxy changed, not through the careful, controlled evolution the preservers had maintained for millennia, but through the desperate innovations of a species too young to know what was impossible. Truth behind the void. The great crystalline chamber of Helios 9's central hub pulsed with nervous energy as Captain Elena Santos stood before the hastily assembled Preserver Emergency Council. Her dark uniform, designed for functionality rather than ceremony, stood in stark contrast to the ornate crystalline forms of the assembled preservers. The holographic displays surrounding them showed a continuous stream of data from the Defiance sensors, each image more disturbing than the last. 6 months ago, Earth time, we lost contact with our furthest colony, New Haven. Santos began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. At first, we thought it was a communication malfunction. Then we lost contact with the rescue fleet we sent to investigate. When we finally got a ship close enough to see what happened, she gestured, and a new hologram sprang to life. The assembled preservers' crystalline forms vibrated in collective horror. Where a thriving colony world should have been, there was nothing. Not destruction, not ruins, simply an empty void in space where a solar system should exist. We call it the entropy wave, Santos continued. It doesn't just destroy, it unmakes. Physics, matter, even the fundamental forces that hold reality together, they all break down in its presence. And it's intelligent, or at least guided by something that is. First Observer Zathraval's scales shifted to the deep violet of urgent inquiry. You speak of this with such certainty. How did you survive encountering such a force? Santos' expression hardened. Because we're stubborn. Because humans have a long history of refusing to die when we're supposed to. We lost 3 more colonies and countless brave souls gathering this data, but each time we learned more. We developed new technologies, new theories, new ways of thinking about reality itself. She touched a control on her wrist, and the holographic display changed again, showing the schematics of the Defiant. Our ships now operate on principles that shouldn't be possible according to conventional physics. We learned to exist partially out of phase with normal spacetime. It's the only way to survive contact with the wave. You can't be unmade if you're not fully present in the first place. Third monitor Ven's crystals pulsed with a mixture of fascination and fear. Such technology, it violates fundamental laws of reality. Reality? Santos laughed, but there was no humor in it. Reality is about to violate itself on a scale you can't imagine. We had to choose between breaking the laws of physics or watching everything we ever knew vanish into nothingness. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The preservers had maintained order in the galaxy for countless millennia, carefully shepherding younger civilizations toward enlightenment. But they had never faced a threat like this. "There's more," Santos said quietly. "We've found evidence that this has happened before. Ancient records, buried in the quantum substrate of space itself. Civilizations that simply vanished, leaving nothing behind but encrypted warnings in the fabric of reality. We think the wave is cyclical. It moves through the galaxy like a cleansing tide, erasing everything in its path before retreating back to whatever dimension it came from." Zathraval moved forward, her crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the chamber. "If what you say is true, why have the preservers never detected this threat in all our existence?" "Because you weren't looking for it," Santos replied. "Your civilization is built on order, on maintaining the status quo. You see what you expect to see. We humans, we're chaos incarnate. We look for the impossible because we've never accepted limitations. That's why we found it, and that's why we might be the key to stopping it." The captain activated another hologram, this one showing a complex network of quantum equations and theoretical models. "We've developed a theory. The wave isn't just entropy given form. It's a tool. Something or someone is using it to reset the galaxy periodically, erasing civilizations that grow too powerful or numerous. But its very nature might be its weakness." The assembled preservers studied the data with growing understanding. Their ancient knowledge, combined with humanity's revolutionary insights, began to paint a picture that was both terrifying and hopeful. "We can't stop it conventionally," Santos explained. "You can't fight entropy with normal physics, but if we combine your mastery of crystalline technology with our quantum phase shifting—" She paused, letting the implications sink in. "We might be able to create a resonance cascade that could disrupt the wave's fundamental structure." First observer Zathraval's scales shifted through a rainbow of colors as she processed the proposal. "You're suggesting we take the very foundations of preserver technology and experiment with it, modify it based on theories that shouldn't even be possible?" "I'm suggesting," Santos said firmly, "that we either evolve or we disappear. The wave will be here in less than 30 days. It will erase your civilization as thoroughly as it erased our colonies. All your knowledge, all your history, all your careful preservation of order, gone in an instant." The chamber erupted in crystalline harmonics as the preservers debated among themselves. Santos stood quietly, watching. She had seen this reaction before. The denial, the disbelief, the desperate clinging to established ways of thinking. But she had also seen what happened to those who couldn't adapt quickly enough. Finally, Zathraval raised her appendage for silence. Her scales had settled into the deep blue of decision. "Captain Santos, what you propose goes against everything the preservers have stood for since our inception. It is dangerous, unreliable, and completely without precedent." She paused, her crystalline form pulsing with new determination. "And it may be our only hope. Tell us what you need." Merging two worlds. The vast engineering bay of Helios 9 had been transformed. Where once crystalline structures grew in perfect geometric patterns, now chaos reigned. Human engineers in dark uniforms moved among the towering crystal formations, attaching devices that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Preserver technicians watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as their sacred technology was modified in ways that defied their most fundamental principles. Dr. Maya Chen, the Defiant's chief engineer, stood before a holographic display that showed the progress of their modifications. Her hands moved through the air, manipulating quantum equations that would have been considered impossible just months ago. Beside her, Crystal Smith Lyrix's form pulsed with agitation. The resonance patterns are destabilizing, Lyrix observed, their crystalline voice vibrating with concern. These modifications violate every principle of harmonic engineering we've developed over millennia. Maya didn't look up from her work. That's the point. The wave doesn't follow your principles. It doesn't follow any principles. To fight it, we need to create something equally unpredictable. Across the bay, teams of humans and preservers worked to modify the station's defensive arrays. Each crystalline spire was being fitted with quantum phase shifters, devices that allowed solid matter to exist partially out of sync with normal spacetime. The technology was crude by preserver standards, but it worked in ways their elegant solutions couldn't. Captain Santos entered the engineering bay, accompanied by first observer Zathraval. The human captain's uniform was wrinkled, dark circles under her eyes betraying days without rest. Even Zathraval's usually pristine scales showed signs of fatigue, their colors slightly muted. "Status report," Santos called out. Maya straightened up from her work. "We've modified about 60% of the defensive arrays. The integration between our phase shifters and their crystalline technology is, well, it's working, technically. But it's not stable." "Define not stable," Zathraval requested, her scales shifting to a concerned amber. "The crystals want to maintain harmony," Maya explained. "Our technology thrives on discord. When we combine them, the results are unpredictable. Sometimes the crystals shatter. Sometimes our devices overload. And sometimes—" She gestured to a nearby testing chamber where a modified crystal was floating, seemingly occupying multiple spaces at once, while emitting a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Sometimes we create something entirely new," Maya finished. Santos studied the floating crystal with intense focus. "Can you weaponize it?" "Captain," Zathraval interjected, "these crystals are the foundation of our civilization. They are not meant to be weapons." "With respect, first observer," Santos replied, "everything is a weapon if it keeps you alive. The wave will be here in 20 days. We need every advantage we can get." Before Zathraval could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Third Monitor Ven's voice echoed through the chamber, long-range sensors detecting quantum disturbances, multiple signatures matching the wave's profile. "That's impossible," Maya whispered. "We should have had more time." Santos was already moving. "It's accelerating, learning, adapting, just like we do." She turned to Zathraval. "We're out of time for debate. Are you with us?" The first observer's scales rippled through a cascade of colors before settling on a deep, determined purple. "Crystal Smith Lyrics," she commanded, "implement all modifications immediately. Divert power from the harmony matrices to the human devices." "But first observer," Lyrics protested, "without the harmony matrices, our entire network could collapse. If we maintain harmony now, there will be nothing left to preserve," Zathraval stated firmly. Her next words seemed to cost her physically. "Sometimes preservation requires destruction. Sometimes order must embrace chaos." The engineering bay erupted into frenzied activity. Human engineers and preserver technicians worked side by side, their movements becoming more coordinated as necessity overcame cultural differences. Maya and Lyrics merged their expertise, finding ways to make the impossible work through sheer determination. Above them, through the station's transparent crystal dome, space itself seemed to darken. The stars began to dim, as if something was consuming their light. Captain Santos watched the phenomenon with grim recognition. "First wave of quantum distortions," she announced. "Just like at New Haven. We have hours at most." Zathraval moved to stand beside her, both leaders watching the approaching darkness. All our history, the first observer said quietly. All our careful advancement and preservation. We thought we were maintaining the natural order, but perhaps we were just standing still. Santos nodded. Stagnation is death. Change is survival. That's something humanity learned a long time ago. She turned to face the preserver. Your people preserved knowledge for thousands of years. Now it's time to use it. Throughout the engineering bay, the modified crystals began to pulse with new energy. They vibrated at frequencies that shouldn't have been possible, existing in multiple states simultaneously. Human phase shifters merged with preserver harmonic technology, creating defenses that defied the laws of physics themselves. Maya looked up from her work, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and wonder. It's done. Whatever we've created here, it's either going to save us all or tear reality apart. What's the difference? Santos asked with a grim smile. She turned to Zathravel. Sound the alert. Get every ship you have to this position. We're about to find out if chaos and order together are stronger than entropy itself. As the call to battle echoed through the crystalline corridors of Helios 9, human and preserver alike prepared for a fight unlike any their species had ever faced. They had hours to prepare, to coordinate, to overcome millennia of different approaches to existence itself. The void between stars grew darker. The wave was coming. The battle of impossible light. Space rippled like dark water around Helios 9 as the combined fleet took their positions. Crystalline preserver vessels arranged themselves in perfect geometric formations, their hulls now studded with crude human phase shifters that made them flicker like stars going nova. The human ships, led by the Defiant, moved more chaotically, their dark hulls seeming to bend reality around them. Captain Santos stood at the command center of Helios 9, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching wave. Beside her, first observer Zathravel's scales had taken on a color never before seen in their species, a shifting pattern that matched the quantum uncertainty of the human vessels. The wave is splitting, Maya reported from her station, her hands dancing across both human and crystalline interfaces. It's forming multiple approach vectors. It's never done that before. It's learning, Santos replied grimly. Every civilization it consumes, it adapts. It's using strategies now. She turned to Zathravel. Your people ready? The first observer's response was cut off by a new alarm. The void between stars had gone completely dark, but within that darkness, something moved. It wasn't a shape or a form. It was an absence, a hole in reality itself that spread like ink through water. All ships, execute Phase Protocol Alpha, Santos commanded. Around the station, human vessels began to shift, their quantum drives pushing them partially out of normal spacetime. The effect was disorienting. Dozens of ships seeming to exist in multiple places at once, leaving afterimages across the visual spectrum. The preserver ships responded with their own defense, their crystalline structures beginning to resonate at frequencies that made reality itself sing. The combination of human phase technology and preserver harmonics created a barrier of impossible light around their position. Then the wave struck. The first impact was silent, but felt in every atom of every being present. Reality shuddered as entropy incarnate met the combined might of two civilizations' desperate innovations. Where the wave touched the defense barrier, space itself seemed to scream. Multiple breaches in the outer defense ring. Maya called out. The wave it's trying to find a resonance that will disrupt our phase shifting. Preserve harmony in the crystal matrix, Zathravel commanded her fleet. Let the humans' chaos strengthen our order. The battle unfolded like nothing either species had ever experienced. Human ships danced through space in impossible patterns, existing in multiple states at once, firing weapons that bent probability itself. Each shot created ripples in the wave, temporary holes that the preserver vessels immediately filled with crystalline structures that amplified the effect. But the wave was relentless. Where their defenses held, it simply flowed around them like water finding new paths. Ships that weren't quick enough to shift phases simply ceased to exist, their crews and technology absorbed into the endless hunger of entropy. "We're losing the outer rings," Maya reported, her voice strained. "The wave is adapting faster than we can modify our defenses." Santos watched the tactical displays, her mind racing. The wave was using their own tactics against them, learning from each failed attack. Then she saw it, a pattern in the chaos, a rhythm to the void's movement. "It's not just consuming," she whispered, then louder. "First observer, the wave isn't just destroying, it's processing. Everything it takes, it has to break down, analyze, understand. What if we gave it something it can't process?" Zathravel's scales shifted rapidly as she grasped the concept. The testing chamber. The crystal that exists in multiple states. Not just multiple states. Maya cut in, understanding blooming across her face. Multiple contradictory states. Order and chaos simultaneously. A paradox made real. Santos turned to the first observer. "Can your ships generate a harmonic resonance field large enough to encompass the entire defense perimeter?" "Yes, but maintaining such harmony while your ships generate chaos would tear the field apart." "Exactly." Santos' eyes gleamed with desperate inspiration. "We're not trying to stop the wave. We're trying to give it something that will make it stop itself." Understanding rippled through the command center. Orders were given, positions shifted. The preserver fleet began to arrange itself in a perfect sphere around Helios 9, their crystalline hulls vibrating in perfect harmony. Human ships moved between them, their phase shifters deliberately tuned to create maximum discord. "All ships, prepare for synchronized activation on my mark," Santos commanded. "When this hits, reality itself is going to object. Anyone who's not partially out of phase is going to have a very bad day." The wave pressed closer, its darkness now almost complete. At its edges, stars were not just going out. They were being unwritten from existence itself. Now, Santos and Zathravel commanded simultaneously. Every preserver ship activated their harmonic resonators at full power. Every human vessel pushed their phase shifters beyond safe limits. The space around Helios 9 became a quantum nightmare. Perfect order and absolute chaos existing in the same space at the same instant. The wave hit this barrier and stopped. For a moment that stretched into eternity, nothing happened. Then the darkness began to ripple, not with movement but with confusion. Where it touched the barrier, it tried to process what it was encountering, but there was nothing to process. Only a paradox that existed outside the very laws of reality it used to unmake existence. "It's working," Maya breathed, watching her sensors. "The wave is trying to analyze the barrier, but it can't. It's encountering something that exists as both particle and wave, ordered and chaotic, real and unreal simultaneously." The darkness began to retreat. First slowly, then with increasing speed. Where it pulled back, stars re-emerge, reality reasserting itself in its wake. The wave, for the first time in its existence, had encountered something it couldn't consume, couldn't understand, couldn't unmake. As the void retreated, Santos turned to Zathravel. The first observer's scales were cycling through colors so rapidly they appeared white. "Well," Santos said with a weary smile, "I guess sometimes the best way to preserve something is to change it completely." Around them, human and preserver crews began to realize what they had accomplished. They had faced entropy itself and driven it back not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but by creating something that defied the very rules of existence, a perfect fusion of order and chaos, preservation and innovation. The stars shone brighter than ever in the aftermath of darkness, witnessing the birth of something entirely new in the galaxy. A civilization that understood that true strength lies not in maintaining the status quo, but in the courage to evolve beyond it. A new dawn. 3 months after the Battle of Helios 9, the great crystalline chamber looked very different. Where once perfect geometric patterns had dominated, now chaos and order intertwined in beautiful complexity. Human quantum technology pulsed alongside preserver crystals, creating structures that existed in multiple states simultaneously, a physical embodiment of the change that had transformed both civilizations. Captain Elena Santos stood before the newly formed Joint Council, her dress uniform now bearing both human and preserver insignia. Beside her, First Observer Zathraval's scales rippled with colors that would have been considered heretical mere months ago. "The wave continues to retreat," Santos reported, gesturing to the holographic display showing the galaxy. "Our long-range probes show it returning to whatever dimension it emerged from. But more importantly, we've begun to recover data from the systems it abandoned." Maya Chen stepped forward, her engineer's uniform now integrated with crystalline components that shifted and flowed with her movements. "The wave didn't just consume civilizations," she explained. "It preserved them. Every species, every technology, every piece of knowledge. It was all stored in a quantum matrix. As the wave retreats, it's leaving behind echoes. We're learning how to reconstruct what was lost." The assembled council members, both human and preserver, watched in amazement as Maya demonstrated. At her command, a section of the chamber transformed, crystalline structures rearranging themselves to reproduce architecture from long-vanished civilizations. Data streams in forgotten languages flowed through the air, each carrying the legacy of species that had faced the wave alone and fallen. "We've already restored contact with 3 of the human colonies we thought were lost," Santos continued. "They weren't destroyed. They were transformed. The wave turned them into quantum data. But now that we understand how it works, we can reverse the process." Crystal Smith lyrics, their form now permanently altered by exposure to human phase technology, moved forward. "The implications extend beyond recovery. By understanding how the wave processed reality itself, we've gained insights that neither of our civilizations could have achieved alone." "The wave was a test," Zathraval declared, her scales settling into a new color that represented clarity. "Not one designed by any intelligence, but by the universe itself. Each civilization it encountered faced the same choice: adapt or disappear. Those who clung to their old ways were consumed. But we chose a different path." Santos nodded. "We chose to evolve. Humans gave up our tendency to chaos for chaos's sake. The preservers abandoned rigid order in favor of dynamic stability. Together, we created something entirely new." The evidence of their evolution was visible throughout preserver space. The once static crystalline stations now pulse with quantum uncertainty, their structures stronger for their ability to exist in multiple states. Human ships had integrated preserver harmonics, their phase technology now guided by principles of resonance rather than random chance. "We've received requests from 17 developing civilizations seeking to join our alliance," Maya reported. "Species that would have hidden from both human chaos and preserver order are drawn to what we've become. They see in us a path to evolution without extinction." The Joint Council chamber hummed with discussion. The very concept of such rapid change would have been unthinkable to the preservers before, while humans would have been suspicious of any form of orderly progression. Now both species recognized the strength in their combined approach. "There's more," Santos said, her expression serious. "The wave will return. The patterns we've decoded from ancient data suggest this is a cyclic event. But next time, we won't face it as separate species struggling to survive. We'll meet it as a unified civilization that understands both the necessity of change and the importance of preservation." Zathraval's scales shifted to a color that represented hope, a concept the preservers had never needed a color for before. Perhaps that was the purpose all along. Not to destroy, but to force evolution. To ensure that life in our galaxy never becomes too rigid or too chaotic to adapt. The chamber's crystalline structures pulsed with new energy as Santos activated another holographic display. This one showed the combined fleet, human ships and preserver vessels working in perfect harmony to establish quantum resonance fields around vulnerable star systems. "We're implementing the changes throughout both our territories," she explained. Every human colony, every preserver station is being upgraded with our combined technology. We're creating a network that exists partially out of phase with normal spacetime, protected by crystalline harmonics that defy entropy itself. Maya stepped forward again, her expression bright with excitement. And we're discovering new applications every day. The quantum crystal matrices we created to fight the wave. They're allowing us to explore dimensions we never knew existed. We're finding remnants of civilizations that faced the wave millions of years ago, preserving their knowledge while learning from their mistakes. Evolution without loss. Lyrics observed, their crystalline form resonating with the concept. Change without destruction. We have become living proof that opposite forces need not cancel each other out. They can make each other stronger. As if to emphasize their words, the chamber itself seemed to shift, its structure flowing between perfect geometric patterns and quantum uncertainty in a dance that was beautiful precisely because it could not be predicted or contained. Santos looked out at the assembled council, seeing in their faces, human and preserver alike, the same expression of wonder and determination. We stopped the wave not by fighting it, but by becoming something it couldn't comprehend. We created a paradox, a civilization that is both perpetually changing and eternally preserved. And in doing so, Zathravel concluded, her scales now shimmering with all possible colors simultaneously, we have ensured that when the wave returns, it will find not separate species waiting to be consumed, but a galaxy that has learned to dance on the edge of chaos and order. We have become the very thing we needed to be, not by design, but by necessity. We have evolved. The chamber resonated with the truth of her words. Outside, the stars shone brightly in a galaxy it was forever change. Human ships phased in and out of reality alongside crystalline stations that hummed with impossible harmonies. They had faced extinction and emerged not just survived, but transformed. The wave would return, but it would find something new waiting for it. A civilization that had made peace with paradox, that had learned to preserve itself through constant change. In the end, humanity's chaos and the preserver's order had created something greater than either could have imagined, a future where evolution itself had evolved.